Welcome to our webinar today. Before we start, let's do some housekeeping. I would like you to give me some feedback via the chat option in the lower part of the webinar panel, just to make sure you see my screen all right and you can hear me all right. So could you please do that? Give me some feedback whether that's all fine at the moment. Okay, looks good. Thanks a lot. So we can get started. That's Cecilia and me. Cecilia Lim is our pre-sales manager, and she will show you what our new process designer can do. And this is what we want to cover today. So before we take a look at our process designer, I want to share some general notes on updates and how we plan to stay in touch with you regarding those updates. And after that, and a short introduction from my end, Cecilia will do a live demo and walk us through an invoice automation process. And then I'll do a little summary and we'll be done. I'm pleased to say that our partner landscape has been growing nicely in the past months. Hence, we're now trying some new ways of communication with our partners, but also amongst our partners. Therefore, first of all, let me make you aware of our closed group on LinkedIn that I have created. This is for CumulusPro partners only. And we use this group to post product news, new use cases, and many other things, as you will see once you join the group. Like here, for instance, as a post on a new knowledge base site that we have published recently under http help.cumuluspro.net. And the idea with this group really is to build a network of partners. So partners should also post their solutions with or around CumulusPro. And in the true sense of our customer engagement solution, we would like to enable collaboration amongst the partners and to really create a community. This is a product update session, so let's talk just briefly about updates, minor versus major updates in particular. So there are minor updates. They will just happen. These are improvements of existing features. So no installation is needed. It will simply be available once a user uses a CumulusPro product. Major updates, on the other hand, will be announced as I'm announcing the process designer today, and there'll be further announcements as we go through the year. Some examples of minor updates that we've done in the past weeks and months. So in Scanner Process Lite, for instance, you find now these two counters indicating the number of successful uploads in a session, as well as the number of failed uploads. Give you another example. When you now go to the tile reports on our admin panel, you do find reports which you can generate yourself and will give you lots and lots of information, and will then be, well, it will then be exported to Excel, and there you will find the information. And news like these on minor updates, you will find them on our LinkedIn group. So finally, let's talk about the process designer. This is what processes were in CumulusPro so far, a black box, more or less. The idea was for processes to simply be available for you. However, we figured that you as a partner would like to be able to change and adapt those processes, maybe copy them for other accounts, etc., etc. That is why now the new process designer gives you full self-service capabilities. You can now design almost any process you can think of in terms of processing documents, and you can do it yourself. Of course, if you do not want to do it yourself, we can still do it for you, or maybe some other partners can do it. Some other partner can do it. In any case, this does give you a lot more options now. Also, we have integrated with another platform called Zapier.com, which offers interfaces to more than 500 applications, tools, backend systems, etc., which can be helpful with your processes. And Cecilia will show you some examples of how to integrate with such applications. The process that Cecilia will show you is the following. Now, of course, it all starts with a document that starts the process that is being captured one way or another. This input can happen via our Scan Express or our Scan and Process Lite or our mobile app or email import, or for instance via an invoice portal which we have designed with FormStack and which we integrate with via Zapier.com. Now, once we've captured the document, it goes to OCR and extraction and validation. So at that point, we have a validated invoice. And then, depending on some trigger in the validation, if there is a requirement to update vendor data in the ERP system, for instance, this will be sent automatically to Trello, which is a task and project management tool. So that will create a task for someone to update the vendor information in the ERP. If this invoice is above a value of 10,000 euro, an SMS will be sent to AP approval to notify them of this invoice. In parallel, we'll create a web validation URL to send to approval. And then once the invoice has been approved, we do create a payment reminder in Google Calendar. And also, we will post this invoice to Xero, which is an online accounting tool. That's just to show how an integration with any other accounting tool would work. Right, so this is the process. Now I'll hand over to Cecilia to show us how this works in practice. So let me give her presentation rights. Here we are.
Good morning, everyone. So here we will show you how a vendor can submit the invoice through the vendor portal. So this is a mock-up vendor portal. And as a vendor, I will enter the required field. For example, here I have to enter the PO number. Let's just choose one. Let's take 9. And then I enter the contact email. And I choose the invoice that I want to submit. So here I am, invoice.pdf. And here I could enter some special remarks. For example, please update my bank details. And next thing is, I would just click on submit form. So now I have submitted the form successfully. I received a thank you notification from FormStack. So let's go into the process monitor. The form has been submitted to Straatos and is now in the OCR process where we do the full page OCR. Next is where we do the extraction, where we extract the invoice number, invoice date, amount, and etc. And once that's done, we move to the next stage, which is the validation. Here, I will log in as a validation operator to validate the invoice. So I'm logging as a validation user. So here's the invoice. We have extracted the invoice number, the invoice date. Here's the PO number that I've entered from the vendor portal, and the amount. So I will choose the payment date, let's say on the 25th of January, and I would require vendor update. So I'm happy with this invoice and I complete the document. Let's go back to the process monitor. So once I've completed the validation, it will first go to the create a task in Trello. So if you go to Trello, a new task has been created. So as an AP team, I log into Trello. I can see what are the tasks that I need to do, which is please update the vendor bank details. Here we have the attachments that you can click on it to view the invoice. So now back to the process monitor. Next thing is we check the amount. If it's more than 10,000, first we send an SMS to the AP approval. So here's a sample of SMS. We have a new invoice is here with a PO number and it's due at this date. Once that's done, we create a link which we will send to the approval via the email. They can approve the invoice. So here's my email as approval. Click on the new notification, and here's the link to the invoice that I need to approve. Okay, I'm happy with the invoice and I complete the document. So back to the process monitor. So you can see that once the invoice has been approved, it will create a payment reminder in Google Calendar. So let's go to Google Calendar. Let me just quickly refresh this. And you can see that a payment reminder has been created here. You can click on it to have a look. Invoice with this amount, this invoice number is due today. And now I go back to process monitor. The next thing is we will create an entry in Xero. Go to Xero. And you can see that a new entry has been created. Let's click on it to have a look. So we have a payment date on the 25th of January. And these are the details from the invoice. And we can click here to view the attachment. Yep. In the process monitor, we could also click on the steps where the documents are. So this is the end of the process, and we can view the details of the document. So you click on it, you can also see the image. Yeah, that's all about the.
All right, thanks a lot, Cecilia. So what we've seen here is that next to a full invoice automation process, including validation and approval, you have integrated with FormStack for the invoice portal, with Trello for the task management, Twilio to send an SMS, SendGrid to send the email, Google Calendar, and Xero. So that makes 6 external applications that you've integrated in that process. And now you're telling me this really took you less than a day to set all this up. So is it really that easy? Can you show us?
Yes, it's that easy. So now let me create a simple workflow process. Let's create one. I'll give it a name. Let's say searchable PDF workflow. So click on this workflow, and we will first start to design the process. At the beginning, we will need to create a start event where we assign what are the documents that you would like to process. Let's tick invoice. And then next to that would be, I would like to do a full page OCR. Let's call it OCR. And click on the settings that you can select what are the services that you need to use. So here we have the AV OCR, searchable PDF, AV MRZ, and also we have integrated with Tesseract. So let's choose one. I'll choose AV, for example. Once I've done that, I need to export the documents to my server. So I'll say export to my iConnector. Click on settings. Here I would choose that we have integrated with iConnector server, Google Drive, and SharePoint. So for this example, I choose to my connector. So for example, this is my connector, and I'll select what are the file type that I would like to export, which is the AV OCR searchable PDF. So that's done. And the last part is we need to have an end event. Once I've designed it, remember to publish the workflow. Then it's ready to be processed. That's all. It's that simple.
Okay. Thank you very much, Cecilia. I'm deeply impressed. So that was a creating a searchable PDF flow in the Process Designer within, what, 2-3 minutes. So I do believe the other process that you've shown can really be done in less than a day. So that's really impressive. Thanks a lot. So now that we've seen that, what are the benefits? First of all, of course, it is completely self-service. So you as a partner have full control over your processes. And you can have almost any complexity you can think of, and yet be done in no time. But also, it will reduce your time, and with that our time, to market even further. But even though the single process steps will continue to be very user-friendly, and the fact that our process designer is BPMN 2.0 compatible means that you can easily import processes or export them. And this, of course, means that they're easy to copy and also easy to share, for instance, among partners. So as a result, we're really fulfilling the promise of the cloud, which is to make technology available and affordable for everyone, not just the big corporations. Just imagine now a small and medium enterprise can have a full PO matching workflow, for instance, with an invoice coming in, automatically being compared to a PO, differences go into a workflow, eventually debit notes are generated automatically, whatever else you may want to put into that workflow. And that can be available for just a few €100 or pounds a month, obviously depending on the number of invoices. But that gives anyone an ROI almost from the first invoice processed, which should also mean that the sales cycle should shorten and actually make such a sale a lot easier for all of us. So that's it to the process designer, more or less. Before we come to the questions, let me give you a quick preview of what else is coming in the next weeks and months in terms of major updates. So first of all, we will launch a new mobile app in the next few weeks, which will not only take full advantage of the workflow features in this process designer, but will also have many other interesting new features. And I'm convinced that this new app will be a true game changer to the concept of mobile capture and customer engagement. So stay tuned for that. We will also introduce a chat function within our solution, especially on the validation screen, where you can chat with your co-workers regarding certain documents. You can share your screen, whether when you have questions, you want to check with some co-worker, you can do this without a need to leave that validation screen. That will also come in Q1. And then in Q2, we plan to launch an invoice portal, which is meant to show to end users how easy it is to do invoice processing today and how easily it can be available for them. The idea here is not to generate end user business for CumulusPro. That's not what we do. We work with partners only. But the idea is to promote the solution and with that, of course, generate leads for our partners. And then in Q3, or in any case, sometime later in the year, we do plan to launch a marketplace, which means that's a place where you as a partner can offer your services, maybe your processes, your interfaces, etc., to other partners and eventually to end users as well. Right, so if you have, special processes, you have special capabilities that you want to offer to the outside world, that marketplace will give you the opportunity to do so. So that's just a rough overview of what's coming in the next months. I guess there'll be a few more as we go through the year, but certainly those two first ones in Q1. Stay tuned for those, and we'll have another webinar later in the quarter to announce this. Okay, let's come to the last slide. So this is to announce a workshop on the Process Designer. So here we've just shown you, very roughly what you can do with the Process Designer to give you an idea of the possibilities. But this workshop will be much more technical than the webinar today. It will take place Friday next week, January 29th at 11 o'clock. And it is meant for partners and for their technical resources. So if you yourself or someone in your team wants to attend, or you believe should attend, please drop me an email after this session so we include you or your team member in the invitation list. Okay, so that's a 1.5 hour where you'll see how to design an invoice automation process and do some integration, as we've just shown today, but obviously with a much more technical perspective. All right. So I think that's it. Thank you all again for joining. If you have any criticisms, ideas, questions, please feel free to send me an email. I'm truly looking forward to your feedback, and I'm looking forward to being in touch with you and see how we can translate this into business. And of course, I also look forward to meeting you all again in our next webinar. So with that, I wish you a good weekend, everyone, and see you next time. Goodbye.